The film that you are about to see was made on the spot, and the ideas and opinions are those of American Motors dealers and their salesmen. Mr. Fred Adams, Director of Merchandising and Advertising, will tell you why this film was made.
Gentlemen, we've been impressed with the fact that in some dealerships, the salesmen consistently earn more. And we've noticed that the men who sell more ambassadors are the ones who make more money. We asked ourselves why some men sell more ambassadors than others. And we decided that there ought to be a way we could go about finding out and sharing with all of you the know-how that is bringing increased earnings to many American Motors salesmen. To do this, we conducted a survey of a number of successful dealers. The results indicated some of the reasons why they were doing an exceptional job of selling ambassadors. But in order to learn more, we selected several dealers, and Jim Malloy, our sales training manager, went out to talk with them at their places of business and to record their ideas on film so that all of you could see those ideas in action. Jim found out that each of the dealers had his own ideas, some of which may differ from your ideas. But remember that in each case, the dealer and his salesman are some of the more successful ones selected nationwide. Here's what Jim found out.
These are but 3 of the dealerships just visited: Hardy Motor Company, Don Schulstead Rambler, and Nichols Brothers Rambler. This is the Hardy Motor Company, which has one of the finest histories of successful selling. And this is Mr. Len Hardy. Mr. Hardy is one of the best ambassador merchandisers in the country. He and all of his salesmen are ambassador specialists, and naturally, to sell ambassadors, he keeps a large stock of ambassadors on hand. And of particular interest is the fact that all of these ambassadors are completely equipped with optional equipment. Mr. Hardy's attitude is that the ambassador is a luxury car, the finest luxury car in the country, and that this equipment naturally makes it easier to sell ambassador because it becomes even more luxurious. Along with selling the ambassador as a luxury car, Mr. Hardy and all of his salesmen believe firmly that anyone who can buy a Ford, Chevrolet, or Plymouth can and should buy ambassador. His owner file bears this out. It shows that 80% of his sales are to competitive owners, and that over 40% of his owners have bought ambassador. But let's take a closer look at what's done at Hardy's. First of all, they have a sales meeting at least twice a week, where they discuss how things are going and set out to solve any particular problems. The salesmen make consistent use of the registration list to locate and contact prospective buyers. And there is one factor that stands out as unique. Each of the 7 salesmen has an ambassador demonstrator. No matter what car a buyer is interested in, he is always given a demonstration ride in ambassador. Mr. Hardy put it this way: after driving ambassador, even though they buy another American Motors car, they feel like they own a part of an ambassador. And besides, we believe it's easier to sell down than to sell up. From the time a buyer first enters Hardy Motor Company, the salesman's prime object is to get him into an ambassador. And the showroom itself helps him do this. Practically all the buyer can see is ambassadors. At Hardy's, the floor display is changed 2 or 3 times a week, and almost all of the space is given over to ambassador. The salesman greets the buyer immediately, and in this case, he learns that the buyer is interested in a smaller economical car. If the buyer seems insistent, the salesman takes him to the American, but he is always looking for the opportunity to have the buyer look at and appreciate ambassador. When the salesman begins to talk ambassador, the buyer may seem doubtful, but at Hardy's, the salesman feels this way: he can always come back to the American later, but it would be far more difficult to sell the American and its features first, and then to try to cause the buyer to think in terms of ambassador. He has found that there are very few buyers who can resist taking a look at ambassador. And from looking, it's only a short step to examining ambassador more closely, toward wanting to see what it looks like inside. And the salesman takes this opportunity to sell ambassador comfort, convenience, and compactness, ambassador value, and luxury. And once he sits behind the wheel, it's much easier to get the buyer into a demonstrator for a ride that has been carefully planned. Stop and start city driving, out-of-the-way driving, country driving, and driving over severe bumps. A route that really shows the quiet, smooth, responsive ride and performance that belong to Ambassador. Part of the demonstration ride is to have the buyer drive 9 miles over washboard roads, and then to dare him to drive a Ford, Chevrolet, Plymouth, or any other make over the same route. Mr. Hardy even makes Ambassador available to competitors to drive, so that they will know that it is a compact luxury car. Then they will know it is the top of the line and compare it with their car accordingly. Everyone at Hardy's believes that Ambassador excels all other cars, regardless of price. Mr. Hardy put it this way: what determines the value of a car? The amount it costs or the service it gives? We believe that Ambassador, because of the service it gives, compares with the most expensive car on the market. Mr. Hardy feels that if a salesman places his demonstrator in the hands of 2 buyers one night each week, he will sell at least 1 Ambassador a week. The approach of the Hardy Motor Company has placed ambassadors everywhere in his community. The president of a bank, a minister, a buyer for a bakery, an orchestra leader, an office manager, a plant foreman. These are but a few. Try to sell Ambassador to everyone. It's easier to sell down than up. Make every demonstration an Ambassador demonstration. These are some of the factors that have been responsible for Hardy Motor Company's success in selling Ambassadors. Here at Don Schulstead Rambler, the approach is different from that of Hardy Motor Company. This is Don Schulstead, who, along with his salesman, described their method of operation. Don's basic approach is that people's buying habits don't change. A man who drives a Cadillac, Oldsmobile, Mercury, or one of the other medium or high-priced cars is considered as a logical prospect for Ambassador Custom. A man in the top Ford, Chevrolet, or Plymouth model is treated as a prospect for Ambassador Super. However, a man in one of the lower-priced Big 3 cars is not considered as an Ambassador prospect. He will probably be shown the Rambler 6 or perhaps the Rebel V8. Schulstead Rambler's success is built on the idea that people's buying habits don't change very much. That what they have bought before essentially sets the price range in which they will buy now. Schulstead Rambler feels that to immediately present Ambassador to a man not already in the upper or medium price market would frighten him away. So he is first sold on the Rambler, which is in the price bracket he is used to thinking about. Then, if he seems to be interested, it is easier to sell him up to the next higher model. Don and all of his salesmen were unanimous in their feeling that Ambassador is the finest car on the road today, and that this conviction and a ride make up the best and only way to convince buyers of Ambassador quality and value. A problem mentioned in the surveys and by the dealers interviewed is selling those Nash Ambassador owners who aren't sold on the present Ambassador, who feel that it's a smaller car. The answer Don has to this problem is to get the traditional Nash owner out of his car and into Ambassador for a demonstration ride. The luxury and performance will do the job of converting the Nash owner. And while this is going on, one of his men appraises the buyer's car. Now, in selling Ambassador in the showroom, we talked with one of his leading salesmen, and this is how he goes about it. He takes the buyer over to the Ambassador and asks him to look at it. He stresses its smooth flowing lines and the powerful performance with top V8 economy. He emphasizes the instant response, the smoothness of the drivetrain, the fact that it carries out your every wish almost before you think of it. He opens the hood and points out the 270 horsepower engine and the fact that it provides the most favorable weight-to-horsepower ratio in the industry. He describes the wonderfully smooth and comfortable ride, points out deep coil ride, the fact that these longer coils are placed widely for perfect road stance. At this point, he also covers the many advantages of single-unit construction. He talks of Ambassador's rattle-free ride, and of the comfort of riding in Ambassador. He asks the buyer to sit behind the wheel and to see for himself how comfortable the seats are, and to notice that he isn't sitting on the floor, as in some other so-called luxury cars. And once the buyer is seated in Ambassador, he reviews all of the personalized comfort features, the coil spring seats, and the finely appointed interior. And throughout his presentation, he stresses that driving an Ambassador is the only way to appreciate it. Then on the way out to take the demonstration ride, he shows the prospect the luggage compartment. At Schulstedt Rambler, the salesmen feel the same about the demonstration ride as they did at Hardy Motor Company. It is looked on as vital to every Ambassador sale. The idea being that once a man has experienced the ride, he will never forget it. After the demonstration ride, the buyer is taken to a closing room. The salesman, unknown to the prospect, has picked up and noted the appraisal on the way into the closing room. He suggests a difference which is a little higher than he knows it to be and tries hard to gain agreement. Then, when he reveals the actual appraisal figure, the buyer is certain to be pleased. To overcome the natural reluctance of a buyer to signing his name, he asks him to indicate how he wants the certificate of title application made out. This does not in any way obligate the buyer, but when he has signed his name once, it's easier to do it a second time on the order form. He will also call the service department in the prospect's presence and tell them to pick up the car and get it into the service department immediately. If the prospect is hesitating, this helps him to make up his mind to buy. If by chance the buyer should hesitate because of price, the salesman may quote the price difference on a fully equipped Ambassador and a similarly equipped 6. Then he is in a position to lower the price of the Ambassador by eliminating optional equipment. Or he can lower the price even more by suggesting the Super. This overall approach has proved extremely successful for him, placing him in the top income bracket. Every morning at Schulstedt Rambler, Don holds a sales meeting. They discuss quotas, prospects, follow-ups, used cars, and any specific problems his men have come up against. And they have regular meetings with the service department. A great deal of emphasis is placed on product knowledge, know-how, and service at Schulstedt Rambler. In particular, new car delivery preparation. Getting off to a good start with a new Ambassador owner is vital in building repeat business. Let's review the ideas that are working for Schulstedt Rambler. People's buying habits seldom change. First, sell a man on a Rambler in the price range he's used to thinking about. Then, sell up. Make a complete presentation. Give demonstration rides. Get the prospect to agree to a difference. Then use the appraisal form to give him a slightly lower difference. Get the prospect used to signing his name. And call the service department and tell them to pick up the car immediately. Now let's move on to Nichols Brothers Rambler, a very successful American Motors dealership of long standing. And here are the Nichols brothers, Palmer and Gordon. They believe in finding out which of the American Motors cars the prospect is interested in. Then they attempt to sell him the top model in that series. However, they may demonstrate a smaller car first and try to determine whether or not the prospect can be moved up. The sales manager holds a short get-together every morning for the 8 new car salesmen. Quotas, prospects, problems, and sales aids, such as the personal prospecting kit, are discussed. The 8 used car salesmen hold a separate meeting. The selection of used cars indicates the kinds of trades Nichols Brothers have been receiving. A quick look shows a Cadillac, Buicks, Oldsmobiles, Mercurys, and late model Fords, Chevrolets, and Plymouths. Incidentally, a man who is looking for a used 58 model is generally shown a new Ambassador. Here at Nichols Brothers, there is the problem of moving the many loyal Hudson owners into Ambassador. They, as the Nash Ambassador owners, have to be convinced that the Ambassador is a true luxury automobile, the luxury car that is compact. And the answer of Nichols Brothers is a complete presentation of the qualities that make Ambassador a luxury car, and the all-important demonstration drive. Here's one of the salesmen greeting a buyer. Let's follow along and see a technique used very successfully by Nichols Brothers. After establishing that the buyer is interested in a fine car, the salesman takes him to the attractively priced Ambassador Super. He points out that an Ambassador Super can be purchased for less than some so-called low-priced cars and costs hundreds of dollars less than any car in its class. As soon as he can, the salesman gets the buyer to sit in Ambassador as he continues to present the features of the car. And at the first opportunity, he takes the buyer out for a demonstration ride. This particular salesman was especially enthusiastic about Ambassador, saying that it is the finest car in the country, bar none. And he, like all the other dealers and salesmen talked with, felt that demonstration is the really powerful force in selling Ambassador. Its performance must be experienced to be appreciated and believed. Compactness and maneuverability are best covered when the buyer drives and parks the Ambassador. By the time they return to the dealership, the buyer has the desire to become an Ambassador owner. But many things could prevent this. The standard practice at Nichols Brothers is to move quickly toward the close and, if possible, to use the help and ability of the sales manager. This is a well-known technique, but it is used to great advantage here. In this particular case, the sales manager is quickly brought up to date and introduced to the buyer. A very simple step, yet they feel it has saved many a sale that would have been lost if the salesman had insisted on trying to complete the sale himself. Whatever the reason for the buyer's hesitation, whether it's a personal feeling about the salesman or not, the help of the sales manager or another salesman adds to the chances for success. And the number of sales by using this simple expedient has proved its value to Nichols Brothers. So at Nichols Brothers, they qualify as to whether a man is interested in a V8 or a 6. Then they attempt to sell the top model in the series that fits his needs. The demonstration is stressed, and the help of the sales manager is used. All three of the dealerships we've been looking at are highly successful. Their salesmen are successful, and all of the dealerships are fine Ambassador merchandisers. As you've seen, they don't use any special tricks, although they differ considerably in their ideas about how to go about selling. Hardy Motor Company believes in giving all demonstrations in Ambassadors, that it is easier to start at the top of the line and come down if necessary, and that anyone who can buy a Ford, a Chevrolet, or Plymouth can buy Ambassador. But Don Schulstedt Rambler believes it's better to follow the buyer's buying habits by trying to sell him a car in the price range of his present car, and that it is easier to sell up later than it is to start too high and have to try to come down. Nichols Brothers try to sell a man the top model in the American Motor Series that he is interested in. And they start by determining whether the buyer is interested in a V8 or a 6. But these are the points on which these successful dealerships differ. Let's take a look at the things on which they agree 100%. Ambassador is the finest car on the roads today. Its quality, performance, and handling ease are best sold by demonstration. The luxury and exclusive features such as personalized comfort are used in all presentations, as are the styling, durability, safety, and compactness. But these are things that all of you know. Now, is there something else, something that is held in common by successful Ambassador merchandisers who make more money? In degree, yes. There is a contagious and enthusiastic belief that Ambassador just can't be excelled by any other car in the world. That dollar for dollar, no car in any price range can match it. Perhaps you can utilize some of the ideas and techniques of the salesmen shown in this film. Maybe they will give you some additional ideas. But there's no doubt about the value of the right attitude toward Ambassador. A deep-down conviction that Ambassador is a true luxury car. The luxury car that is also compact. That attitude is the key to a larger income for every salesman and every dealer.